Hello, and welcome to Historical Humans Read, where we take primary sources and bring them to your screen. I'm Colum Coleman, and today we are reading from Hyperion, an epic poem by John Keats that recounts the Titanomachy, a decade-long war from Greek mythology between the gods of Mount Olympus and the Titans who came before them. Keats, who died from tuberculosis at the age of 25, never completed Hyperion. However, this did not prevent the fragment he had written from appearing in a collection titled Lamia, Isabella, the Eve of St Agnes, and Other Poems in 1820, just 1 year before Keats' death. Today we will be reading the completed fragment of Hyperion in its entirety. With that, let's begin. Deep in the shady sadness of a vale, far sunken from the healthy breath of morn, far from the fiery noon and Eve's one star, sat gray-haired Saturn, quiet as a stone, still as the silence round about his lair. Forest on forest hung about his head, like cloud on cloud, no stir of air was there. Not so much life as on a summer's day. Robs not one light seed from the feathered grass, but where the dead leaf fell, there did it rest. A stream went voiceless by, still deadened more, by reason of his fallen divinity, spreading a shade. Naiad mid her reeds pressed her cold finger closer to her lips. Along the margin sand large footmarks went, no further than to where his feet had strayed, and slept their sense upon the sodden ground. His old right hand lay nerveless, listless, dead, unsceptered, and his realmless eyes were closed, while his bowed head seemed listening to the earth, his ancient mother, for some comfort yet. It seemed no force could wake him from his place, but there came one who, with a kindred hand, touched his wide shoulders, after bending low with reverence, though to one who knew it not. She was a goddess of the infant world. By her stature the tall Amazon had stood a pygmy's height. She would have taken Achilles by the hair and bent his neck, or with a finger stayed Ixion's wheel. Her face was as large as that of Memphian's Sphinx, pedestaled happily in a palace court, and the sages looked to Egypt for their lore. But oh, how unlike marble was that face, how beautiful, if sorrow had not made sorrow more beautiful than beauty's self. There was a listening fear in her regard, as if calamity had but begun, as if the vanward clouds of evil days had spent their malice, and the sullen rear was with its stored thunder laboring up. One hand she pressed upon that aching spot where beats the human heart, as if just there, though an immortal, she felt cruel pain. The other, upon Saturn's bearded neck, she laid, and to the level of his ear, leaning with parted lips, some words she spake, in solemn tenor and deep organ tone, some mourning words which in our feeble tongue would come in these like accents. Oh, how frail to that large utterance of the early gods. Saturn, look up, though wherefore, poor old king? I have no comfort for thee, no, not one. I cannot say, oh, wherefore sleepest thou? For heaven is parted from thee, and the earth knows thee not, thus afflicted for a god. and ocean too with all its solemn noise, has from thy sceptre passed, and all the air is empty of thine hoary majesty. Thy thunder, conscious of a new command, rumbles reluctant o'er our fallen house. And thy sharp lightning in unpracticed hands scorches and burns our once serene domain. O aching time, O moments as big as yours, all as ye pass swell out the monstrous truth, and press it so upon our weary griefs, that unbelief has not a space to breathe. Saturn, sleep on, O thoughtless, why did I thus violate thy slumbrous solitude? Why should I ope thy melancholy eyes? Saturn, sleep on, while at thy feet I weep. As when, upon a tranced summer night, those green-robed senators of mighty woods, tall oaks, branch-charmed by the earnest stars, dream, and so dream all night without a stir, save from one gradual, solitary gust, which comes upon the silence and dies off, as if the ebbing air had but one wave. So came these words, and went. Will in tears, she touched her fair large forehead to the ground, just where her falling hair might be outspread, a soft and silken mat for Saturn's feet. One moon, with alteration slow, had shed her silver seasons four upon the night. And still these two were postured motionless, like natural sculpture in a cathedral cabin. The frozen god still couchant on the earth, and the sad goddess weeping at his feet, till at length old Saturn lifted up his faded eyes and saw his kingdom gone. And all the gloom and sorrow of the place, and that fair kneeling goddess, and then spake, with a pulse hung and well his beard shook horrid with such aspen malady. O tender spouse of gold Hyperion, Thea, I feel thee ere I see thy face. Look up, and let me see our doom in it. Look up, and tell me if this feeble shape is Saturn's. Tell me if thou hearest the voice of Saturn. Tell me if this wrinkling brow, naked and bare of its great diadem, hears like the front of Saturn, who had power to make me desolate. Whence came the strength? How was it nurtured to such bursting forth? While fate seems strangled in my nervous grasp. But it is so, and I am smothered up and buried from all godlike exercise, of influence benign on planets pale, of adamations through the winds and seas, of peaceful sway above man's harvesting, and all those acts which deity supreme doth ease its heart of loving. I am gone. Away from my own bosom, I have left my identity, my real self. Somewhere between the throne and where I sit, here on this spot of earth, search, Thea, search, open thine eyes eternal, and spear them around on all space, space starred and lorn of light, space regioned with life air and barren void, space of fire and all the yawn of hell. Search, Thea, search, and tell me if thou seest a certain shape or shadow making way, with wings or chariot fierce, to repossess a heaven he lost erewhile. It must be ripe of progress. Saturn must be king. Yes, there must be a golden victory. There must be gods thrown down and trumpets blown, of triumph calm and hymns of festival upon the gold clouds metropolitan, voices of soft proclaim and silver stir, of strings and hollow shells, and there shall be beautiful things made new for the surprise of the sky children. I will give command. Thea, 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 where is Saturn? This passion lifted him upon his feet, and made his hands to struggle in the air, his druid locks to shake and ooze with sweat, his eyes to fever out, his voice to cease. He stood, and heard not Thea's sobbing deep. Little time, and then again he snatched utterance thus. But can I not create? Can I not form? Cannot I fashion forth another world, another universe, to overbear and crumble this to naught? Where is another chaos? Where? That word found way onto Olympus, and made quake the rebel there. Thea startled up, and in her bearing was a sort of hope. Thus she quick voice spake, yet full of awe. This cheers our fallen house. Come to our friends. O Saturn, come away and give them heart. I know the convert. From thence I came hither. Thus brief. Then with beseeching eyes she went with backward footing through the shade of a space. He followed, and she turned to lead the way through aged boughs that yielded like the mist, with eagles cleave unmounting from their nest. Meanwhile, in other realms, big tears were shed, more sorrow like to this, and such like woe. Too huge for mortal tongue or pen of scribe, the Titans fierce, self-hid or prison-bound, groaned for the old allegiance once more, and listened in sharp pain for Saturn's voice. But one of the whole mammoth brood still kept his sovereignty and rule and majesty. Blazing Hyperion in his orbed fire still sat, still snuffed the incense, teeming up from man to the sun's god, yet unsecure. For as among us mortals omens drear, fright and perplex, so also shuddered he, not at dog's howl or gloom bird's hated screech, or the familiar visiting of one upon the first toll of his passing bell, or prophesizings of the midnight lamp, but horrors portioned to a giant nerve oft made Hyperion ache. His palace bright, bastioned with pyramids of glowing gold, and touched with shade of bronzed obelisks, glared a blood red through all its 1,000 courts, arches, and domes, and fiery galleries. And all its curtains of aurorean clouds flushed angrily, while someone's eagle's wings, unseen before by gods or wondering men, darkened the place, and neighing steeds were heard, not heard before by gods or wondrous men. Also, when he would taste the spicy wreaths of incense breathed aloft from the sacred hills, instead of sweets, his ample palate took savor of poisonous brass and metal sick. So when harbored in the sleepy west, after the full completion of a fair day, for rest upon divine upon exalted couch, and slumber in the arms of melody, he paced away the pleasant hours of ease, which stride colossal from hall to hall. Well, far within each aisle and deep recess, his winged minions in close clusters stood, amazed and full of fear, like anxious men, who on wide plains gather in panting troops, when earthquakes jar their battlements and towers. Even now, while Saturn, roused from icy trance, went step for step with Thea through the woods, Hyperion, leaving twilight in the rear, came slope upon the threshold of the west. Then, as was once, his palace door flew open in the smoothest silence, save what solemn tunes, blown by the serious zephyrs, gave of sweet and wandering sounds, slow breathed melodies, and like a rose in vermeil tint and shape, in fragrance soft and coolness to the eye, that inlet to severe magnificence, stood full blown for the god to enter in. He entered, but he entered full of wrath. His flaming robes streamed out beyond his heels and gave a roar as if of earthly fire that scared away the meek ethereal hours and made their dove wings trembled. On he flared from stately nave to nave, from vault to vault, through bowers of fragrant and enwreathed light, and diamond paved, lustrous long arcades, until he reached the great main cupola. There, standing fierce beneath, he stamped his foot, and from the basements deep to the high towers, jarred his own golden region. And before the quavering thunder thereupon had ceased, his voice leapt out, despite of the godlike curb, to this result. O dreams of day and night, O monstrous forms, O effigies of pain, O spectres busy in a cold, cold gloom, O lank-eared phantoms of black-weeded pools, why do I know ye? Why have I seen ye? Why is my eternal essence thus distraught, to see and to behold these horrors new? Saturn is fallen. Am I too to fall? Am I to leave this haven of my rest, this cradle of my glory, this soft clime, this calm luxuriance of blissful light, these crystalline pavilions and pure fanes of all my lucent empire? 'Tis left deserted, void, nor any haunt of mine. The blaze, the splendor, and the symmetry I cannot see, but darkness, death and darkness. Even here, into my center of repose, the shady visions have come to domineer, insult and blind, and stifle up my pomp. Fall, no, by Tellus and her briny robes, o'er the fiery frontier of my realms, I will advance with a terrible right arm, shall scare that infant thunderer, rebel Jove, and bid old Saturn take his throne again. He spake and ceased, and the while the heavier threat held struggle within his throat, but came not forth. For as in the theatres of crowded men, a bub increases more, they call out hush, so at Hyperion's words the phantoms pale bestride themselves thrice horrible and cold, and from the mirrored level where he stood a mist arose as from a scummy marsh. At this, through all his bulk and agony, crept gradual from feet onto the crown, like a lithe serpent, fast and muscular, making slow way, with head and neck convulsed. From o'erstrained might, released he fled to the eastern gates, and full 6 dewy hours before the dawn in season dew should blush, he breathed fiery, fierce breath against the sleepy portals, cleared them of the heavy vapors, burst them wide. Suddenly, on the ocean's chilly streams, the planet orb of fire whereon he rode, each day from the east to west the heavens through, spun round in sable curtaining of clouds, nor therefore veiled quite, blindfold and hid, but ever and anon the glancing spears, circles and arcs and broad belting color, glowed through and wrought upon the muffling dark, sweet-shaped lightings from the nadir deep. Up to the zenith, hieroglyphics old, which sages and keen-eyed astrologers, then living on earth with laboring thought, won from the gaze of many centuries, now lost, save what we find on remnants huge of stone or marble swart, their import gone, their wisdom long since fled. To wings this orb possessed for glory, two fair, ardent wings, ever exalted at the gods' approach. And now from forth the gloom their plumes immense rose one by one, till all outspread were, while still the dazzling globe maintained eclipse, awaiting Hyperion's command. Fain would he have commanded, fain took throne, and bid the day begin, if but for change. He might not. No, though a primeval god, the sacred seasons might not be disturbed. Therefore the operations of the dawn stayed in their birth, even as here 'tis told, those silver wings expanded sisterly, eager to sail their orb, their porches wide, opened upon the dusk of Demesis night, and the bright Titan, frenzied with new woes, unused to bend, by hard compulsion bent his spirit to the sorrow of the time. And all along a dismal rack of clouds, upon the boundaries of day and night, he stretched himself in grief and radiance faint. There, as he lay, the heaven with its stars looked down on him with pity, and the voice of Coelus from the universal space thus whispered low and solemn in his ear. O brightest of my children dear, earth-born and sky-engendered, son of mysteries, all unrevealed even to the powers which met at thy creating, at whose joys and palpitations sweet and pleasures soft, I, Coelus, wonder how they came and whence, and at the fruits thereof what shapes they be, distinct and visible, symbols divine, manifestations of that beauteous love, diffused unseen throughout eternal space. Of these new formed art thou, O brightest child, of these thy brethren and the goddesses. There is sad feud among ye, and rebellion of son against his sire. I saw him fall. I saw my firstborn tumbled from his throne. To meet his arms were spread, to me his voice found way from forth the thunders round his head. Pale walks I, and in vapors hid my face. Art thou too near such doom? Vague fear there is, for I have seen my sons most unlike gods. Divine ye were created, and divine in sad demeanor, solemn, undisturbed, unruffled, like high gods ye lived and ruled. Now I behold in you fear, hope, and wrath, actions of rage and passion, even as I see them on the mortal world beneath, in men who die. This is the grief, O son, sad sign of ruin, sudden dismay, and fall. Yet do thou strive, as thou art capable, as thou canst move about, an evident God, and canst oppose to each malignant hour ethereal presence. I am but a voice. My life is but the life of winds and tides. No more than winds and tides can I avail, but thou canst. Be thou therefore in the van of circumstance. Ye seize the arrow's barbs before the tense string murmur to the earth. For there thou wilt find Saturn and his woes. Meanwhile, I will keep watch on thy bright sun, and of thy seasons be a careful nurse. Ere half this region whisper had come down, Hyperion arose, and on the stars lifted his curved lids and kept them wide, until it ceased, and he still kept them wide, and still they were the same bright, patient stars. Then, with a slow incline of his broad breast, like a diver into the pearly seas, forward he stooped over the airy shore and plunged all noiseless into the deep night. This has been an excerpt from Hyperion on Historical Humans Reads. If you enjoyed this video and would like to hear more excerpts from original text, please subscribe to be notified of the next one. If there's a work you would like to hear, be sure to like this video and leave a comment listing it below. Thank you for listening.